What's going on, guys? Styx here with the Token Minorities, bringing you the battle for the championship of Season 6 of the CPC, and we are up against King L5 and his Oakland Roseraiders. And before I get into the battle, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, helps us out a ton, and let's do more cool stuff for you guys. And if you are new to the channel, please feel free to check out the TTM Discord that will be linked in the description below. Here at TTM, there is not just myself and my draft format content. I also do TCG content as well, and Jolt and Crobat for the Win also have their draft format content as well, so please feel free to check that out. And we also have a channel for Smogon stuff if you guys are into that. But anyway, on to the battle. Like I said, we are up against L5 and his Oakland Roseraiders, and yeah, this is it. This is for all the marbles, the entire season, just being able to win the championship. And L5 is a very, very good player. He is the reigning March Madness champion, so not to be taken lightly at all. Now, looking at the team that he brought, I am noticing that he brought all of the threats and none of the removal, or the typical removal, that I would have thought he would bring. I would have thought that Whimsicott or Donphan would be brought as his removal, even though Donphan just kind of loses to all of my rockers, and Whimsicott can be blocked by Incineroar. It can also be set up on by Ferrothorn. Just basically, there's a lot of stuff that Whimsicott is just kind of set up fodder for, depending on the set. So because I'm not seeing any removal on his end, I mean, apart from Landorus or Zard, which definitely could be, but that means they're giving up attack slots in order to defog. Either way, if they do have defog, then I still want to force them to do that, as that will give me an opportunity to pressure him more with my offense, which is something I definitely want. So I'm going to prioritize getting up rocks and trying to get up spikes, and then trying to sweep as quickly as possible with my Necrozma and his Raichu. But that being said, he brought the Calvillo, Landorus, Charizard, Weavile, Xurkitree, all 5 of the Mons that I was most scared of. I was kind of hoping that he would leave maybe 1 or 2 of them back, just because he'd want to bring like more support for like Donphan with Rocks and Spin or something to that effect. But nope, he just brought all the hazards, and then he also kind of sort of brought a Corsola, which at Team Preview I was kind of like, huh, well, I mean, that's interesting, but to each their own. I mean, Corsola could maybe do some work, but at this point I'm just kind of looking at it as setup fodder and death fodder for my 2 electrics, and just setup fodder for Ferrothorn and Swampert. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the battle. Like I said, I am going to get up my rocks ASAP, so I am going to lead with my Swampert, as he does lead with his Landorus. Not wasting time, getting up my rocks immediately. Yes, I do want damage on this Landorus for later, but because I don't think he has any removal, or he has to have offensive removal, if anything, then I still want to force that out of him. So I'm just going to get up my rocks. Worst case scenario, we trade rocks, which we do. That's fine. If you wanted to go for Earth Power, Swampert gets hurt, but I still get my rocks up, and he does not have his rocks up. And Earth Power, unless he was like modest Life Orb, would not 2-hit KO me. So I'm in a good spot. We traded rocks. I'm just going to fire off a Scald right here. Hits everything on his team. If he wants to stay in an Earth Power, that's fine. If he goes to Calvillo, it's okay. I get to scout out that set, maybe potentially get a burn on it, and I don't get a burn, but I also do not see leftovers. Now, if I saw leftovers, I'd be like, okay, this Calvillo can easily be like a sub-Calm Mind dual stab set, which would be very, very devastating against my team, something that I really would not want to have to deal with, and something that is a huge problem. But because I did not see the leftovers, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a Scarf or a Specs Calvillo, because, I mean, let's be real. Look at my team and tell me where my Calvillo answer is. Like, if I don't know what move he's going for, with the right move, I just lose a Pokemon, plain and simple. Like, something dies. Like Ferrothorn, if I try to switch it in on a Secret Sword, it's going to get to it KO'd. Everything else, Hydro Pump just absolutely blasts. So this is a very difficult spot. But luckily for me, I have the Secret Tech on Swampert that Jolt gives me a lot of crap for using. I go for Protect, see what he wants to lock himself into. Goes for Hydro Pump, that all but confirms that he is choice locked. So I'm going to go straight into my Ferrothorn, see what type of damage this Calvillo does, and he 100% does specs damage, so because it did so much, I don't want to be 2-hit KO'd by another Hydro Pump if he tries to stay in, so I'm just going to immediately go for a Leech Seed. Yes, he can go Charizard like he does here, but Charizard comes in, takes Rocks, gets down to 50%, and takes Leech Seed, so my Ferrothorn is back up to 71%. Yes, I still do get 2-hit KO'd by Hydro Pump, but I'm not O-code, and that's what matters. And plus, regardless, with the Leech Seed that I do have on this Charizard, my Incineroar, even though it will come in on Rocks, will still be getting Leech Seed recovery back. So even if he decides to straight up attack my Ferrothorn, Incineroar will still get enough health back to hopefully be out of range of, like, Flamethrower into Focus Blast. And there's a decent chance that he doesn't even have it. A lot of the Charizards that I ran up against just ran like Flamethrower, Solar Beam, and then HP Ice for my Salamence. They did not bother with coverage for Incineroar just because that thing gets chipped down so easily. So because Charizard is Leech Seeded, I'm thinking that if he has Roost, he's going to go for it right now. So I'm not going to bother protecting. I can also save that move for later if I need it. I'm going to go straight into my Incineroar, take whatever hit Charizard wants to go for. If he goes for Focus Blast, well, that sucks, but good on him. And I will be able to revenge with my Tapu Koko as he will not be able to come back in on Rocks. But he goes for Flamethrower. That does absolutely nothing. I was so ridiculously confused at this point because of how little damage his Charizard did to me. I mean, that did like uninvested damage, and so I was very, very confused, but I was like, okay, whatever. Charizard is low, it can't come back in on Rocks. It's either going to Roost or it is going to try to fire off a Focus Blast. Either way, I should be able to live, and I'm just going to fire off a Thunder Punch if he wants to try to get initiative and go into Keldeo. But he does just go for the Flamethrower, gets me low to where Rocks kill me, but I do take out the Charizard, which is one big threat gone. He goes into his Landorus. I'm thinking that this is a Scarf Landorus based on the way he didn't try to U-turn out earlier, because I feel like if you weren't Scarf Landorus, you would have gotten Rocks up and then gotten chip damage off on the Swampert, but because he just got up Rocks and then switched out, thinking that he might be Scarfed, so I'm just going to leave my Landorus in, let that thing go down to an Earth Power as... Did I say leave my Landorus in? Leave my Incineroar in, as it's done its job on the Charizard. It's gotten rid of it, it checked it, all that good stuff, and then it forced his hand by going into the Landorus, and then it knocked me out. So Incineroar did its job very, very well, and now what this allows me to do is go into my Ferrothorn and start getting up some spikes, as I really don't think he has any removal on his team at all, because this Landorus is more than likely Scarfed. But for the time being, I'm going to go for the Leech Seed so that I can not only chip the Landorus, but also get Ferrothorn in a range where I can take another Earth Power while getting up spikes, because my plan at this point is to just get up spikes with Ferrothorn and then sack it off to Landorus. But that doesn't mean I can't get a good amount of chip damage off in the process. So he's going to go for Earth Power, avoid the KO with my Ferrothorn because of the Leech Seed, and now I could go for another Protect, but I didn't want him like potentially predicting that and then trying to take advantage of that by going out into Xurkitree, Weavile, or Corsola or something like that. So what I ended up doing was going for another Leech Seed on that turn, as he does just knock me out. I mean, that extra like 13% that it would have gotten off on the Landorus really was not crucial for anything at all. So it was okay for me just to sack off my Ferrothorn and not try to go for another Protect, just because L5 is a very, very aggressive player. And so I thought he might try to take advantage of that, but nope, just takes out the Ferrothorn right there, and that's fine. My hazards are up. I have a Spike and a Stealth Rock. It is time to try to go for game with my Necrozma right now, as I will be able to take that Earth Power easily, set up an Autotomize, get some health back with Leech Seed to where I'm out of range of a Banded Ice Shard, and now I can kill something no matter what set, well, no, not no matter what set Corsola is. Something on his team dies at this point. I'm going to go for the Photon Geyser just because I really don't think you go Weavile at this point. But on top of that, going for Photon Geyser not only KOs the Landorus, but it also hides the fact that I am a special Necrozma, because Photon Geyser is used on both physical and special. So my play right now is 100% going for Photon Geyser. If he tries to go into Corsola, even a Spadef Corsola will be 2-hit KO'd by Photon Geyser after the hazard. So really, Photon Geyser is 100% my play. You do not switch Weavile into Necrozma, especially considering how good Weavile is for the rest of the game. So that's what I'm going to go for right there. I could go for the HP Ice, but again, wanted to hide the fact that I was special. force his hand a little bit, and Landorus goes down, which means that Tapu Koko and Raichu are looking much, much better. Tapu Koko especially for going for Volt Switches. Goes into Corsola. I know that a Spadef set will easily be 2-hit KO'd. And that does 34 frickin' percent to Corsola. And I was like, what? So I calc that. That's not only a Spadef Corsola, that is Max Spadef Assault Vest. And I was just kind of like, oh, well, that's a thing. I mean, when I saw Corsola at Team Preview, I was thinking, okay, what possible, like, what could Corsola possibly bring to this matchup that he would want it? Well, doing some calcs, Max Spadef Corsola beats every single one of my attackers 1v1. Beats Koko 1v1 as it's able to take a Volt Switch, and then Mirko knocks something out. It's able to take Raichu's attack and knock something out, able to take Necrozma clearly and retaliate with something. But yeah, I mean, I was not expecting Max Spadef Assault Vest Corsola, so that is a very, very heat bring on L5's part. But he goes for the Scald, and I was kind of curious as to why he went for Scald right there, but that just goes back to the previous play that I went for Photon Geyser on the Landorus, as opposed to knocking it out with like HP Ice or Heat Wave. Because I did not reveal that I was special, L5 did not know what type of Necrozma I was, and whether or not Mirko would hit me back for double damage, because if I was a physical Necrozma, then he would just not do like any damage at all with Mirko. Well, actually, I'm not sure how that interaction works. Does Mirko still work on Photon Geyser if Photon Geyser is physical? I'm really not sure. That move is just very, very weird. But either way, because I hid the fact that I was a special Necrozma, he went for Scald that first turn. I'm out of range of a... Well, actually, it depends on rolls, but if he gets the same roll as last time, I'm out of range. But that being said, I kind of want my Necrozma to be saved as a sack for that Keldeo, just because Keldeo comes in and claims one, unfortunately. So I really don't want to have to let my Swampert take like a Specs Hydro Pump, or let Tapu Koko or Raichu just get knocked out. So I'm going to save Necrozma, and keep in mind, I'm still playing this point under the assumption that his Landorus was Scarfed. So I'm thinking right now that his Weavile is the fastest thing he's got. Tapu Koko will easily outspeed the rest of his team and go from there. So I'm thinking that, okay, I really don't have to worry about like another Scarfer. I think I've gotten rid of the Scarfer. So I'm just going to go into my Swampert, and I'm thinking that it can take a Scald. If it gets burnt, it's not a huge deal. I just want my Necrozma as a sack for Keldeo later. As he goes for the Mirror Coat now, and turns out to be a great play by me. Wasn't intended, it was just kind of a, okay, I want to save Necrozma as a sack, but luckily it works out. I'm able to Earthquake the Corsola and knock that thing out, and Tapu Koko is just looking better and better at this point. But unfortunately, Keldeo does come in. I'm thinking that, okay, Keldeo's a threat. I'm mentally preparing myself to try to PP stall him out of Hydro Pumps at this point, so I protect once. I mean, I know he's going to go for Hydro Pump. He has zero reason to go for anything else, but that does waste one. He misses on the incoming Necrozma, but he will knock it out, so it really doesn't matter. I went for a Totemize there just in case he missed again, because it would force out the Weavile, and I'd be able to knock that thing out with Koko or Raichu, but he does connect. However, this does mean Tapu Koko can come in and claim one with Dazzling Gleam, and I think that Tapu Koko might just win the game at this point. So Keldeo does go down. That was confirmed specs. There was no way it wasn't. There was no way it was living that. He goes into Weavile, and at this point, again, I'm still under the assumption that I've already gotten rid of his Scarfer, which was Landorus. Weavile comes in, I can easily take an Ice Shard, I know that, and then I'm going to waste my Farium, or not waste my Farium, I'm going to use my Farium on the Xurkitree to one-shot that thing. So I'm just thinking that, okay, Tapu Koko's got this game cleaned up, and yeah, I can just go from there. So I'm going to stay in. I know I can take an Ice Shard, and then I can clean up Xurkitree from there, but he actually doesn't go for an Ice Shard. I crit the Dazzling Gleam, talked to him after the game, that did not matter at all, and he's going to go into his Xurkitree, and I'm thinking, okay, even if this is Assault Vest, Z into Raichu will take it out. I can still clean it up with Swampert. I have the game on lock as he goes for Energy Ball and is faster, so he bluffed the Landorus the entire time as his Scarfer, and Scarf Xurkitree could have potentially cleaned up if he went for an Ice Shard. So obviously I will be able to take that thing out with a Twinkle Tackle, and we are able to win the championship. I was so ridiculously pumped after that right there. But let's go back a couple turns to okay, here we go, with Weavile. So if I had known that Xurkitree was Scarfed, so Electric Terrain's up, by the way, even though it doesn't show the animation. Electric Terrain is up right now. So what I should have done was, first of all, not assumed anything about the Xurkitree. I should have just Volt Switched out with my Tapu Koko, knocked out the Weavile, because even if he had gone for Ice Shard, it wouldn't have KO'd me. Volt Switch would have knocked out the Weavile at this range, gone into my Raichu. Raichu would have been able to take an Energy Ball at +1. Okay, so let's go back even further. Say I had switched my Swampert in on Corsola as it went for another Scald, and it got the burn on me. So now I'm not necessarily able to one-shot the Xurkitree with Earthquake from Swampert. Like, Rindopert can win the game. If he had, Rindopert just wins the game in general without the burn, but I mean, as you can see, I did win the game. So let's say that Swampert had gotten burnt, and so Swampert is now burned. Weavile comes in and Ice Shards my Koko. Crit Energy Ball can sweep me from here. Like, if he got the crit on Koko after, or actually he would have just knocked out Koko. But if he had gotten the crit on Pert after, then I would have just lost. However, what I should have done is Volt Switched on the Weavile right here, as I would have taken the Ice Shard easily, gone into my Raichu. Raichu lives an Energy Ball from Xurkitree, so he would have had to crit Raichu and crit Swampert in order to win the game, so we would have needed like a double crit in order to win from that point. So yeah, I mean, that's what I should have done, but as it stands, he predicted that I would want to save HP on Tapu Koko, so he did not go for the Ice Shard with his Weavile, and Tapu Koko was able to just live and then Z the Xurkitree to win the championship. And honestly, it was super ridiculously appropriate for me that Tapu Koko was able to finish off the last 3 kills and win the championship, just because, I mean, this is a Mon that hasn't really swept all season. It hasn't done much apart from like U-turning, Volt Switching, just being an overall nuisance and getting I mean, it's still got a decent amount of kills, but for like something that I would take first overall in any given draft at all, Koko only getting 10 kills throughout the season wasn't a very big number, all things considered, but just Koko carried the team. I think I only didn't bring it once against like Johnny Risepool, and yeah, Koko just enabled everything on my team. So yeah, able to win the championship. That is absolutely gigantic. I am so ridiculously excited for that. Thank you so much to everybody throughout the season who supported me, helped me out. We did it. We won a pretty significant championship too, all things considered. 'Cause I mean, the CPC is a very, very good league. I mean, you have a ton of very good players, so winning CPC is a pretty big deal. So I'm very, very happy with that. Thank you guys so much for all the support throughout the season. I'm going to do a quick season recap after this, so if you guys don't really care about that, you can just go ahead and click off the video now. I will go ahead and tell you, but for those of you that would like to watch a season recap, please stay tuned. I will be going into that very shortly. Actually, and by very shortly, I mean right about now. So yeah, for those of you that don't want to watch a season recap, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this is Styx signing out for the last time in the CPC season if you do not want to watch the season recap. So thank you again. Alrighty, so here we are in the season recap, and before I get into anything about the team, I just want to give a gigantic shout out to everybody in my front office from this past season. The team builders that helped me with certain builds, Chesbin, Dougal, Drunken Gyarados, and Psychedelic Scizor, and then the mock partners, which were DJ, Mega Oshawott, Dallas, Evan, Granto Boy, Omega Jolteon, and Tone. Thank you guys all for all the help you gave me throughout the season. Could not have done this without you, and yeah, I mean, just huge shout outs. My front office is amazing. Hashtag my front office is better than your front office. I mean, just bunch of really great guys that I can just talk to about a lot of different stuff. I mean, whenever I was just like, hey, I need somebody to test something out really quickly, always had somebody jumping in. So yeah, love my front office. You guys are freaking amazing, and I'm looking forward to doing more leagues with you guys and all of that good stuff. And also, I guess I do have to give shoutouts to Jolt for the help that he did give me this season, because, I mean, as much as I give Jolt crap, he's one of my best friends in general, not just the Pokemon community. So yeah, love that guy. He helped me a ton this season, and if he ever says that, haha, you said that you're actually my friend, then I will deny it to the death. But yeah, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the season recap. In total, we finished with a record of 9-1 in the regular season, 3-0 in the postseason, and we had a differential of plus 36, which, I mean, I was not expecting that at all. That's a very, very awesome differential. I believe that means we averaged just over a 3-0 for all the wins that we were fortunate enough to get this season. Especially considering the fact that this is the first ever draft season that I've had, besides the VPL and U League, where I've been able to draft my team at the start and use it throughout the season. So just kind of cool to have the first time that I really just draft my own team and get to use it all season end up in a championship. So very, very fortunate in that end. And yeah, 12-1 plus 36. If you told me that that's how I'd finish, of course I would take it every single time. But anyway, let's get into my final thoughts on the season. First and foremost, CPC was a very, very weird season. I mean, we had some players like Hiker and Scoot, who are very good, just did not do as well as they normally do. I mean, they both ended up with bad records, and even Blake as well, Moxie and Fernape, just, it was a very, very weird season. All things considered, just seemed pretty top heavy, especially in my division, where we had the 4th place team at 7-3, and then the 5th place team was at 3-7. So yeah, super, super weird season, all things considered. But looking at my team, going into the season, I felt very, very comfortable with my team, just because, I mean, plain and simple, because I had Tapu Koko. I had a couple of other mons that people thought were kind of overrated in, Gengar and Salamence. People were like, I mean, Salamence, to be fair, was kind of accurate, but I think it was Gengar, Incineroar, and Ferrothorn a lot of people did not necessarily like, and so I was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and try it. They fit my team, and let's just see how it goes. And yeah, I mean, my walls, I had three true walls in Ferrothorn, Swampert, and Necrozma. There's only one, or I guess two technically, recovery moves between them. But Moonlight and Morning Sun are basically the same move, so I count it as one. So 3 walls with 1 recovery move between all of them. I was interested to see how that went, and it actually ended up kind of being perfect for my style, because I play very bulky with pivots. And even though those things did not have recovery, they were still able to pivot in and take the moves that I needed them to take, to where I was fortunate enough to be successful with them. But anyway, let's just go ahead and go with the mons one by one, talk about what they did for me this season and what my thoughts are going into future draft seasons if I were to draft said mon again. First and foremost is Tapu Koko, and plain and simple, I would take this mon 11 times out of 10. First pick in any draft, except for like an Uber's draft, I would draft Tapu Koko. Just plain and simple. That mon is, in my opinion, the best Pokemon in the format to draft around, just because it enables so ridiculously much. Like, the roles it fills from the get-go are stuff that's usually somewhat difficult to try to fill. I mean, first and foremost, it's a fairy type. Now, there are relatively few strong fairies that really you can like build a team around, or fairies that you can bring every week to where you're just never worried about dragon spam. Tapu Koko is 100% one of those fairies. I mean, it's a fairy. It's a very, very strong fairy. Additionally, it has 130 speed, which is a speed tier that normally is really difficult to come across, all things considered. I mean, for me, whenever I draft 130 speed, I'm looking at grabbing like a Crobat, an Aerodactyl, a Jolteon, none of which are nearly as powerful as Tapu Koko is. So Tapu Koko, just having that 130 speed with all the power and ability that it backs up with, I mean, just incredible. Like, you have your fairy type, you have your 130 speed, you have your electric type, which is normally a type that people kind of like wait on a little bit. It's not a type that you necessarily have to get. It's not like a Dragon Steel Fairy Core, Fire Water Grass Core, a Dark type, a normal type, a Ghost type. It's not one of those types necessarily that people are like, oh my gosh, I have to have an Electric type. But it's one of those you're like, okay, it kind of rounds out my draft, enables other stuff. So just, and also with its momentum, and you can have Defog if you need it too. I mean, just Coco is so ridiculously good at enabling the rest of the draft by taking up those draft roles that are normally relatively difficult to fill, all in a single Pokemon. Just allows you to do so ridiculously much with the rest of your draft that I love it. I mean, it's, like I said, I think it's the best Pokemon in the format to draft around just because of what it brings. I brought Coco to every single game except for the meme match against Risepool. That just shows you how much I love it. 10-2, that thing basically just did not die almost all season. So yeah, Tapu Koko, love it. Cannot say how much I love it. Now, Salamence, plain and simple, I made the immense mistake. I mean, it's something that, talking to Jolt, talking to other Draft League players, it's something that really everybody makes at one point or another, just because you look at Salamence and you think, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. There's not a single Mon in the entire format that can beat it. And after using it for a whole season, I only brought it for 4 games. The only Mon that I brought less than Salamence was Incineroar. Like, just let that sink in. My round 2 pick, I brought second least on my entire team. But that's just because Salamence, while it has all the tools, I mean, it has 2 of the best abilities in the game. It has great mixed attacking stats. It has a solid enough speed tier that you can work with. It has an insane move pool. Like, it has just everything that you could want. So why isn't it that good? Why is it normally seen as a Mon that people don't like drafting? And after, like I said, after a whole season of using it, I think I've kind of figured out why Salamence is not nearly as good as it appears to be on paper. So when you're drafting, you're looking at Salamence, and you're like, okay, I mean, like, I could use a Dragon type. Well, let's look at the draft board and see if there's any Mon that Salamence has trouble with. And so you're looking, and you're coming to realize there is not a single Mon in the format that some set of Salamence cannot beat 1v1. Like, there is not a single Mon that can switch in to every single possible Salamence set and beat it. Because, I mean, take something like Bronzong. Okay, you can easily run Z Crunch, Tapu Fini, Z Fly, like, all these different things. Salamence beats any given Pokemon 1v1 with a certain set. There's not a single Pokemon in the entire game that can check every single possible Salamence set. So when you're drafting, you're looking at a bunch of 1v1 matchups, and you're like, oh my gosh, Salamence is great, I'm definitely going to draft him. But the only problem is, when you're playing in the season, suddenly the 1v1 matchups don't mean crap. You're looking at a whole team and you're just like, okay, well, I need this set to beat this Mon, this set to beat this Mon. And so, while Salamence has all the tools you could possibly want, the issue is it wants all of those tools whenever you try to use it. Like, it wants to have multiple Z moves. It wants to be special and physical at the same time. It wants Intimidate and Moxie. Like, Salamence is great on paper, but in practice, you just can rarely, if ever, bring a Salamence set that covers everything it needs to in a well-built draft by your opponent. So, yeah, I mean, Salamence, 4 kills, 4 deaths, 4 games brought. Just a very unincredible stat line. Probably not ever going to pick this Mon up again unless I'm in dire straits or it's like a super budget pick. Just because it's, I mean, yeah, it's one of those Mons, great on paper, in practice, just cannot amount to what you want it to. So yeah, I made the immense mistake. Don't be like me, don't make the immense mistake, but if you are thinking that I'm wrong, that's something that just everybody needs to encounter on their own. Like, I did not believe Jolt when he told me that Salamence wasn't that good, because I was like, oh, look at all its tools, but unfortunately, he was right. Salamence, very, very underwhelming, probably will not draft that again in the future. Now, Ferrothorn is a Mon that I was actually very hesitant to grab early on, just because, I mean, that 4x weakness to fire being very exploitable by Hidden Power Fire, Flamethrower being a relatively common coverage move on a lot of different things. yada yada yada, and Ferrothorn having no reliable recovery. But first of all, it completed my Steel Fairy Dragon Core, which I was like, okay, cool, check that off. Got finished with that immediately. But the more I used it, the more I really, really liked what Ferrothorn brought. Just because, I mean, some stuff, it's straight up walls. And yes, there are things that it just cannot beat. Things that can switch in, deal with it very easily. But then you have Leech Seed. Like, you have Leech Seed that's able to just wear things down. It's able to take a good amount of hits. If your opponent's not running fire coverage, it's going to be very difficult to take Ferrothorn down. And really, Ferrothorn just, I don't know, like, I'm very satisfied with what Ferrothorn brought me this season. I felt that it was 100% worthy of the third round pick, which I got it for. I mean, did it exceed my expectations? Not really. Did it do what I wanted it to do week in and week out? Yes. So Ferrothorn, just very, very solid mon. Do not let the fact that it has a 4x weakness to fire deter you from using it. This mon, very, very good. It's a fantastic pivot. It is one of the best pivots in the entire game. And considering that's what I tried to use it for and use it all season, like, that ended up working out very, very well. So Ferrothorn brought it to vast majority of my games, 7 kills, 5 deaths. I mean, nothing remarkable, but nothing underwhelming. Ferrothorn did its job very, very well, and I'm very satisfied with how picking that mon went for me. Would definitely pick it again, and I encourage you guys to try out Ferrothorn if you have not done so already. Gengar was one of those mons that, this was the first mon that I picked it, and a lot of people were telling me that, oh, Gengar is a crap mon. Like, it's insanely overrated, it's not very good. And it was one of those picks that I was like, you know what? Like, I was between, like, Blacephalon and Drapion for my 4th and 6th picks. Like, between getting Blacephalon 4th and then Drapion 6th, but I decided that, you know what? Let's try out Gengar and Incineroar in those slots. Just because, I mean, those cover the same types, blah, blah, blah. Gengar's a little bit faster. And even though it doesn't do, like, people were telling me that, oh, it's just very frail, it's not a true ghost type, it doesn't take hits like you want your ghost type to be able to. I was thinking that, okay, that's fine, let's just see how Gengar does this season and go from there. As it turned out, Gengar was the frickin' MVP of the regular season. I only brought it to half my games during the regular season, but that thing got 12 kills in the entire regular season. It got 12 kills and only died, well, it didn't die. Like, it only died 0 times. I brought it to 5 games. It got 12 kills and never died. Gengar was very, very underrated. And apparently, I used it well enough to the point where Jolt said that he wants to try it in the future, so I pat myself on the back right there. But I think one of the things that people did not like about Gengar was that it was so seemingly one-dimensional. I mean, it is going to be a special attacker. It's going to have Shadow Ball. It's going to have Focus Blast. I mean, that's what Gengar does. It is a fast, frail, special attacker with Ghost and Fighting coverage, which, yeah, 100% true. But what people, I think, overlooked is the number of different sets that Gengar can run. At one point or another throughout the season, I ran a Spec set, ran a Scarf set, and ran a Sub-Split Life Orb set. Now, the Scarf and the Specs, I mean, just kind of standard stuff. I mean, that's stuff that people have been using for a while. But the Sub-Split set was something that I had not brought until my game against Hiker Toad. And Hiker's a very good battler. His team was very difficult for Gengar to beat 1v1, just like straight up. It didn't have the special breaking power to break through his team. But the fact that I had Sub and Pain Split allowed me to 1v1 his Venusaur and Mega Venusaur and absolutely do a ton of work on his team. So Gengar was one of those mons that, again, people told me was overrated, not very good. I decided to take a chance on it, and it ended up being absolutely phenomenal for me. I think it has more versatility than people really gave it credit for. I mean, particularly with Substitute, suddenly you don't have to predict anymore, and its frailty goes out the window, because if you get a sub up, they have to break the sub, you're not getting hit for damage, you're able to fire off attacks with impunity. So really, really liked Gengar. Easily the best surprise of the season. Ended up 12, 1, and 6 because I brought it once in the playoffs and it just died, but it did stall out Trick Room from a Mega Gardevoir, so good job, Gengar. But still, averaging 2 kills a game overall throughout the course of the season. Very, very good. Would draft Gengar again 100%. Now, Necrozma was easily the most interesting Mon and most versatile Mon on the entire team. I mean, as you can see from its stat line, brought it to 12 games. The only game that I did not bring it was the meme match against Johnny. And so, I mean, that just shows you how good Necrozma is. 11 kills, 10 deaths. So Necrozma killed stuff a lot, but it also died quite a bit. In fact, it died almost twice as much as... Actually, in itself, it accounted for 1/4 of the team's total deaths. Just Necrozma. The team had 40 deaths total this season. Necrozma accounted for 10 of those. I found that really kind of funny, considering how much I love this Mon. And, I mean, really just biggest surprise of the season. I used so many different Necrozma sets. I used physically defensive. I used specially defensive. I used Calm Mind, Swords Dance, Autotomize. I used so many different Necrozma sets throughout the season, and all of them worked. Well, except for the Calm Mind set. It would have worked if he brought the Stunfisk, and I wasn't stupid in trying to set up on an offensive Mega Venusaur, but I digress. It would have worked. That's the important thing. It would have worked if I wasn't stupid. But Necrozma, honestly, this is the Mon on my team this season that I've just come to love. Like, I love that Mon. It is so ridiculously good. Like, it's very, very underrated. I think once Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out, people saw all the move tutors and they were like, oh my gosh, Necrozma's amazing, and started, like, picking it round 1. And no, Necrozma's not a round 1 pick. So, like, it was ridiculously overhyped. And then when people saw how underwhelming it was, it dropped off, and it dropped off hard. Like, it wasn't just like kind of a gradual decline. It was like walking off a cliff and just falling. Like, Necrozma all of a sudden became a Mon that people were like, oh no, that's just not good at all. But I mean, I saw that and I was like, you know what, I want to try it out. And I mean, definitely, I'm not saying everybody thought Necrozma was bad, but people were definitely thinking that that thing was not nearly as good as it should be. But yeah, just the versatility, the fact that it does not die, like it does not die to a single hit, like almost at all, just made it so good for me. Which, I mean, I honestly, like, I attribute so much of this team's success to Necrozma, just being able to take hits that it needed to, sack it off when it's done its job, and like it did its job. It did its job every single time. Like Ferrothorn, I said I was satisfied with, I got what I expected. Necrozma, I got more than I expected. That Mon is very, very good. And Photon Geyser is really just a stupidly good attack that I really kind of want to figure out the whole, all the aspects of that attack in terms of, like, can it be mirror coated? Can it be countered? Does burn affect it? When does burn affect it? Like, blah, 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 all that good stuff. But yeah, Necrozma, very, very good. Put the team on its back quite a bit this season. Now, Incineroar was a lot like Ferrothorn in that what you see is what you get. Now, I only brought this thing to 3 games all season, one of them including the meme match, so only 2 serious games all season. But the thing is, it did its job, and it did its job very, very well. It switched into and took out 2 of the biggest wall breakers in the entire game in Hoopa Unbound and Mega Charizard Y. I mean, you just saw it take out the Mega Charizard Y. But yeah, I mean, Incineroar, you're not going to bring it to every game. It's not going to be a Mon that's, like, overly remarkable. You're not going to be blown away by what it does. But I think if used correctly, you'll be like, you know what? Solid pick. It was a solid late round. It was a solid late round pick for me. I'm appreciative of what I got out of Incineroar. And I mean, this season, like, I don't know if I'd ever place priority on Incineroar, but at the same time, it was like, yeah, that was a solid pick. I am happy with what I got out of my Incineroar pick. So, yeah, I mean, just really much like Ferrothorn, what you see is what you get. I was very, very satisfied with it. Don't try to make it do too much or you'll be very disappointed. And yeah, Incineroar, good work this season. You did good, kid. Next up is a Mon that I've always really liked, and I just kind of used it throughout the season. Like, I did its job. Like, I used it whenever I used it in all but 2 games. In fact, in one of the games that I didn't bring, it was a meme match, and then I only brought Swampert in one. I only didn't bring Swampert in one other game. So very, very strong on my team. Just a nice bulky rocker that's able to deter electric spam, try to take advantage of my electric terrain, that type of thing. But Swampert, was a mon that just went throughout the season, did its job. I was satisfied with what it was doing. But then talking to people after the season and during the season, and they were all telling me how well I was using Swampert. Like, telling me that I was using it incredibly, that they'd never seen Swampert do as well in draft format. I mean, like, I'm trying not to toot my own horn here, but I mean, that was just the stuff that I was hearing from Swampert. Wow. Yeah, I talked to Swampert, and that's what he said. That's what I was hearing people tell me about Swampert, and I was just very confused, because I thought that I was just using Swampert the way it should be used. Like, I wasn't trying to make it just be a wall, because Swampert does not function as a wall. That mon will not do well if you try to simply just use it to take hits in general. However, the way I have been using it all season was a pivot, where I have a very specific situation, a very specific set of hits that I want it to take, and then I specifically EV for that situation. I know I said specific like 5 times, but that's really the key word when it comes to Swampert. Don't just try to use it as a mon that's just like, okay, I need to take a bunch of special hits, let's go with Spadef Pert. No, you have to be like, okay, I want to be able to take 2 Hyper Voices from Gardevoir while being able to get up rocks and get Earthquake damage off. Because if you tailor Swampert to a very specific situation, it will do great. Swampert can be tailored to almost any situation. Heck, I use Swampert as my Kyurem B answer. Like, I'd be able to come in, protect on the Z move, roar that thing out if it tries to sub. I mean, just, if you tailor Swampert to a very specific situation, it will be amazing, and it will do exactly what you want it to do every single time. And I think that might be why I had more success with Swampert than other people might have experienced with it, is because I just didn't try to throw it out there and be like, okay, go take hits. I was like, okay, this mon's a threat. I need you to take this hit from this mon in this situation. And Swampert's like, okay, I got you. And so, yeah, I mean, Swampert, 8, 7, and 11, very, very solid stat line all season. I would pick it again in a heartbeat. I love Swampert. I love its pairing specifically with Tapu Koko. And the more I can pick Swampert, the happier I'll be, just because I really love that mon. It is a very good mon. The perfect amount of bulk, able to tank hits whenever you need it to, while also getting up rocks. And also, the secret tech on Swampert is Protect. I think Jolt gave me so much grief, like an insane amount of grief this season for the amount of Protect that I ran. And yeah, I did overdo it a little bit with the Protect. But I think that with 4X weak Pokemon like Ferrothorn and Swampert, the ability that your opponent has to just run Hidden Power to hit on that weakness, I think you need to be able to scout out what type of move your opponent is going for, because these mons aren't going to take the 4X super effective moves. They will take other moves, however. So yeah, Protect is the secret tech on Swampert. Don't try to use it to just generally be a wall. Tailor it to specific situations, and you will love Swampert. So Swampert, love you, buddy. Great, great job this season. Nearing the end of the draft, we have my Mega Pidgeot. Now, going into this season, I was actually really, really high on Mega Pidgeot. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is going to be so good. It feels such a good speed tier, has momentum, it has a spammable 100% hit Hurricane, has Heat Wave, has Defog. I mean, it has a very shallow move pool, but it's a very spammable move pool at that. And so, I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, Mega Pidgeot is amazing. I found a diamond in the rough, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, throughout the season, okay, don't get me wrong. Loved Mega Pidgeot. It was a very good mon, and it really helped me out in a lot of situations. But I think that the mon is drafted where it belongs. I think it is definitely a lower tier Mega that doesn't deserve to be picked in every single draft. I think if you need it to fill a specific situation, then yeah, 100% pick it, because that is a pick that you won't regret. Like, I do not regret drafting Mega Pidgeot at all. Very good Mega. Did what it was supposed to. Spammed Hurricane, chipped things down, all that good stuff. However, the problem I noticed is its frailty and ability to be revenge killed pretty easily. I mean, Mega Pidgeot is still very fast. It was like 122 speed, I think? Something like that. It's very, very fast. It's very solid, but just just a little bit too frail. I mean, like, compare it to Tornadus. Yeah, Mega Pidgeot hits all the time, but Tornadus has regen to where it's able to come back in. It has better bulk. Just Mega Pidgeot doesn't quite have what it takes to get boosted. I mean, I still brought it to a majority of my games this season, brought it to 8 games, got 5 kills, and died 4 times, but I did not bring it a single time in the playoffs just because it didn't have the ability to put on the pressure while avoiding being revenged. Like, if it wasn't revenge killed so easily, then I could spam Hurricane a lot easier. But the fact that it doesn't quite have the power to break things like Snorlax, doesn't have the bulk to take hits from revenge killers, just was not quite good enough, not quite on the tier where you could say that it's gotten, to say that it's better, like to say that it is very worth picking up earlier in the draft. I think Mega Pidgeot picked where it belongs. You won't be disappointed if you pick it, just don't expect it to do an insane amount of work. Second to last is the only Mon that was not on the original roster this season, and that is Buzzwill. Now, I definitely intended for it to be, but it was sniped from me, and I was like, okay, let's plan around my draft. I grabbed Lucario and Gothorita, and to Lucario's defense, it did amazing in the first week. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, but Buzzwill was just so good for my team. I mean, throughout the regular season, I only brought it to 5 games, and it only got 4 kills, 2 deaths. So, I mean, like, respectable, but not great. I mean, it was a phenomenal physical wall. Like, I was able to wall the crap out of Will's insane offense. Like, his Scolipede and his Zygarde, Buzzwill just hard-walled. Like, hard-walled easily to where I was able to not have to worry about those guys as much. I was able to tailor my team to the rest of his threats, where Buzzwill was just like, you know what? These 2 big threats, I got you. I can take them out. But going into playoffs, Buzzwill put the team on his freaking back. So Buzzwill wasn't the MVP of the regular season. It's kind of like David Freese when the Cardinals won the World Series in like 2011, I think it was, where he wasn't that good during the regular season, but then all of a sudden World Series he just went off, and that's exactly what Buzzwill did. I mean, it single-handedly carried me through the first 2 rounds of playoffs. I mean, getting 4 kills in each of quarterfinals and semifinals, like, not much more I could ask for. Buzzwill is a very, very good Mon. If you have a draft where you don't have the traditional 1,000 arrows resist, like if you draft a Ferrothorn or something like that as your grass type to where it doesn't easily resist 1,000 arrows, Buzzwill is definitely a pickup for you. Or even if you just don't feel comfortable in the grass type that you picked as a Zygarde answer, definitely consider picking up Buzzwill. That Mon is very, very good. It's very, very fat. Yeah, it does have that 4x weakness to flying that you have to kind of work around, but it's still very good. I love that Mon. Thank you, Matty Brawlick, for convincing me to get it. I mean, I never regretted it once throughout the season. I mean, I was kind of wishing that I had grabbed like Mence, and dropped Mence and Buzzwill for Latias and Hawlucha late in the season, but nah, Buzzwill was like, you know what, you made the right choice in keeping me. I'm just going to carry you all the way to finals, and yeah, Buzzwill did great. Would definitely pick that Mon again in a heartbeat just because of its attacking ability, its coverage, and its ability to be fat in a situation that you need it. Last but certainly not least, we have Alolan Raichu. Now, this is a Mon that every single time I have Tapu Koko, I'm probably going to end up picking this Mon just because, I mean, it's such easy synergy, such easy speed control. It's a Mon that people do not pick up unless they have a Tapu Koko. And if you have a Tapu Koko, you're like, okay, I instantly have speed control that I do not have to place any priority on drafting. Like, Hawlucha works with any Tapu. Like, any Tapu that puts up a Surge or puts up a Terrain, Hawlucha can work with that. And so you're kind of like, okay, do I pick it now? Do I wait? Raichu's one of those mods you can just be like, you know what? Take what you want. I'll last pick Raichu, and it just lasts till the end. And now, if you look at its stats, I brought it to 5 games. It got 4 kills and died twice. Well, that might seem incredibly unremarkable, but I brought it to all 3 playoff games, and even though I did not get a single kill with it in the playoff games, I was just so much more comfortable having Raichu there. I mean, against Mio, I definitely misplayed. I misplayed my Raichu, so it should have gotten a kill there. Against Jake, I underestimated its bulk should have gotten a kill there, or should have done a little bit, not necessarily gotten a kill, but should have gotten more damage off. Like, I just misplayed Raichu in that situation very horribly. And then in the final, Raichu was all set to clean up the game, but Tapu Koko just kind of did the job before it was able to do that. So Raichu, I mean, I did not have that good of stats with it, but I still loved it. I still thought it was a very, very good mon. Like, I will pick this with Tapu Koko every single time. It is instant speed control. It's kind of weak, but I mean, again, the instant speed, you can run Modest. It's a great, great, great low tier pick. Like, it's basically just a free tier 5 that you can actually use. Like, I know a lot of the low tier picks are mons that you're just like, well, this kind of fits. I don't think I'll ever bring it. Raichu's one of those mons that you're like, you know what? My tier 5 is actually very scary and forces prep from my opponent. So, yeah, I love Alolan Raichu. Would always draft that with Tapu Koko in a situation where I'm able to. But yeah, that being said, that was the season recap. Once again, thank you everybody who supported me, who helped me out this season. Could not have done that without you guys. And we are ending this as CPC Season 6 champion. So once again, thank you so much for everything. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.